Hello, Year 3. Welcome to your topic lesson for this afternoon. We are carrying on with our topic of ancient Greeks called Who Let the Gods Out? And today we are being historians. So as you can see on your screen in front of you, our lesson title today is We Are Historians, Ancient Greek Artefacts. So we're going to be looking today at some pictures, unfortunately not the real things. If we were in school, we would be able to get things out and hold them and pass them around and feel what they're made of and things like that. But we can't do that during our remote learning. So what we'll be doing today is we're going to be looking at some pictures of artifacts that have been found and that we know were ancient Greek artifacts, and we're going to be analysing them. So firstly, what do I mean by artifact? Artifact is like an item or an object. Sometimes it's even a building or a piece of clothing that has been found by historians or archaeologists, and that is what we call a primary source of information. So that means that it's just something that is from that time. So it's not something that we've remade. So when we dress up as ancient Greeks, we would use material from today to make a costume that looked like something from ancient Greece. If it's a primary source and it's an artifact, that means that that object was used in ancient Greece by ancient Greek people. So you can get artifacts from all eras of history. You can get ancient Egyptian, you can get World War One, any period of history there will be artifacts. So we've got some that relate to the ancient Greeks because that is the period of history that we are looking at. So let's have a look at what we're doing then. Learning then today, we are learning how to ask historical questions to find out about the past. So this is like our representing lesson. When we get back into school, we will do more work about generating further questions and our own questions to make historical inquiries. But for today, because it's the first time we're kind of doing it, you're going to be given the questions. So really it's about how do we use those questions to find some answers. And we're focusing on ancient Greek artifacts. And the purpose of this is to gain a better understanding of life in ancient Greece, to also practice analysing and examining artifacts from history, and also to develop our inquiring skills. And we will know if you have achieved this skill because we will be able to answer the question, can I make accurate guesses about the use of artifacts? So let's have a look at some of these artifacts then. But first of all, what do I mean by historian and archaeologists? So a historian is somebody who looks at history, who examines history. You might find we can all call ourselves historians whenever we look at history. If we pick up a history book, if we talk about history, we are all historians. An archaeologist is somebody who looks at ancient sites and objects to learn about the past. They use tools to carefully trowel or brush the layers of the soil away, and they are looking for clues or evidence about how people like us used to live a long time ago. They're like detectives, but for the past instead of the present. And because of incredible historians and archaeologists, we know an awful lot about the past now. But we are still finding out fantastical things that really blow our minds or completely change the way we think about people in the past. So there's a little challenge as well on your Google Classroom that says have a look around your house or maybe your garden and see if you've got any objects that are from the past. Can you be a detective about those and find out who do they belong to, where are they from, what are they, do they look different? Especially if it's a bit of old technology, it will look very, very different from the technology that we use today. So how do archaeologists and historians get all these answers from just an object? Well, they ask themselves questions and they look at the evidence around the artifact and the site that they've been digging on, and they use what they already know about that period of history to kind of piece together this jigsaw of clues. So we can't be 100% sure on any of these artifacts because we weren't there, we don't know, but we can make some very, very accurate guesses about what they're used for, who used them, where they were from, and what they're made from, based on what we already know, what we use today, and on the sorts of materials and places that these objects are found. So the sorts of questions that they ask, the ones that we're going to ask today is, what is it? What is it made from? So what material is it made from? Remember, they used different materials in history. The first topic that we looked at in year 3 was all about the Stone Age. So their materials were all stone and wood and soil. They didn't have things like metal, but we know that in ancient Greece, by that point in history, they had started using some metal. So what is it? What is it made from? What do you think it was used for? So have a look at the shape of it, the material of it, where was it found? Does it look like anything that we have today? And then the last one, who do I think it belonged to? Because different pockets of society would have had access to different things. And when I talk about that, what I mean is the very rich people in ancient Greece. There was no sort of middle people. There were very poor people in ancient Greece. And then there were slaves. So it went rich, poor, slaves. And in the middle, you've got different ways of breaking up those groups, like men and women were different, adults and children were different, people who made laws were different to other people, people who ran the temples and offered sacrifices to the gods and things like that, they would have been treated very, very differently to anybody else because they were probably the most important people in ancient Greece. But really, for today, what we're talking about is rich, poor, and slaves, okay? If you're confused about those sorts of terms, have a look at the previous videos that are on Google Classroom because we have discussed those when we did that lesson, A Day in the Life of, and we wrote a diary on it. So let's have a look. I've done an example of the first one, and then you're going to give it a go. So, oh, there it is. So I've got a picture of an artefact that was found here. And I've had a go at answering these questions. What is it? Well, by looking at it, I think it must be a helmet. And I think that because I can see that it's got these sort of, this gap here for the eyes, and it's got two bits that go up here, which look like they would be used for my ears. And it looks like a head shape, doesn't it? And I also know it must be a helmet because of things I've seen today. So like films and cartoons that I've watched, books that I've read, pictures in history books, museums that I've been to. I already have that knowledge of what a helmet looks like. So when I look at this one, even though it looks different to the helmets we use today, I can figure out that that must be a helmet. What is it made from? It's difficult because I can't hold it. It's just that picture. I don't know what it feels like, how heavy it is. These are the sorts of questions we'd be asking in the classroom, but we can't do that with just a picture. So I've got to use, again, my previous knowledge of what a helmet is, what's its purpose and everything. So what do I think it must be made of? And actually, looking at the picture, I can see this kind of greyish green tint to it. So that suggests to me that this helmet is made out of a metal. I don't know which metal. I don't know whether it's silver or gold or iron or copper or bronze or any of those. I don't know because I can't tell by picking it up. So I'm just going to say it's made out of metal. And we know that must be different from other eras of history because, like I said earlier, the Stone Age didn't have metal. They would have only used stones, wood, soil, animal skin, things like that. So we're definitely a later era of history now. The next question then, what is it used for? I've not met a person from ancient Greece. I doubt any of us will ever meet a person from ancient Greece. So again, I have to use my knowledge of what a helmet does today to kind of work my way back and think, would it have been the same in ancient Greece? It would be great to ask a person from ancient Greece all these questions, but we can't do that. They're not here to answer them. So we have to find the answers as historians ourselves. So let's think about it. A helmet goes on the head. Why would I want something on my head? Well, it might be to keep it warm. I wear things on my head to keep things warm. But in ancient Greece, I know that the climate was really, really hot and dry. So they probably weren't worried about keeping their heads warm. And if it's made out of metal, that would suggest it's going to stop things from hurting my head. So I think this helmet was used to protect the head from sharp weapons or a blow to the head. That means a bang or a bash on the head. Well, then who do I think it belonged to? Who on earth in ancient Greece, firstly, would be able to afford metal, and secondly, would want their head to be protected? There's only one answer it could possibly be. This helmet must have belonged to a Greek soldier. And I know that there were lots of Greek wars in ancient Greece, so there would have been lots of soldiers and lots of helmets made. These would have been very, very common in ancient Greek life. Now, we haven't looked at any of the ancient Greek wars yet, but we have got a few coming up when we're back in school. We're going to be looking at the Battle of Marathon and the Battle of Troy. We're going to be looking at the ancient Greek Empire. So we will look further into Greek soldiers, but I could figure that out based on my knowledge without knowing all those battles that happen. And that's your task today. So that's my example that is on your PowerPoint. Let me very quickly go through the next examples, your tasks to do. So you've got the same questions each time. You have to look at this picture and look how much I've written for that question. There's not a lot, but I have put in all the information that I need. So you don't necessarily need full sentences, but it does need to make sense. I need to kind of understand that you understand what's going on in that picture. So this is your first one to do independently. What is it? What is it made from? What is it used for? Who do I think it belonged to? Sometimes it's hard to answer what is it first. Sometimes we have to do the other three questions and then go back to what we think it is. But as you can see, I have colour-coded these questions. We've got a green, a yellow, a red and a blue. So just like our maths and English mastery flows, these questions are in the same sort of style. This one here is our representing. It's the easiest one. It's tricky if we don't know all the information, but it is our very surface question. The first thing we would ask, what is it? Then our sort of fluency question is the sort of material it's made from. So we need to call on our science skills here. We can't hold these objects, but I can see that that object is shiny. So I want you to have a think about what sort of materials would be shiny and why. So what can you see that can give you a clue to the material? Once you figured out what it is, what's it used for? Have a think about what we might use it for today. Would it have a similar use back in ancient Greece? And then the last one is, who do I think it belonged to? So this one relies on pulling all of those other questions together, tying them all up and coming up with a polished answer. So if we go back to the helmet, I don't think a slave would have had a helmet, because what use would they have for it? They're not in a battle, so it must have belonged to a Greek soldier, because soldiers go to battle instead. So for this one, we have to think about, well, what material is it? Would poor people have been able to access that material? Was it only for rich people? Was it just women? Was it just men? Was it for children? Was it for adults? Was it for the emperors? Or was it used in the temples to pray to and sacrifice to the gods? Remember, there's lots of Greek gods and they were very important in the ancient Greek culture. So the last one is the trickiest question, but if you really think about it and apply your prior knowledge and your answers to the other questions, it should help you get there in the end. So let's have a quick look then at the other ones. So that's your first one. You've got this picture here that's got 5 objects. They are all roughly the same and they would have the same purposes. So this is a collection of artifacts. You've got this one here, very decorative, interesting. We've got this one here. We do have one of these in school, so when we're back in our classrooms, I will get this out so we can hand it around and have a look at it. And the last one, we have this here. Really think for your last picture, who do you think it belonged to? Come back to this video, go back to the sorts of groups in society I said that we're looking at, and really have a think about that last one. So you just need to write your answers directly onto the slide, double click under these bits before you start writing. Don't email it to me and Miss Collis, so don't click share. Once it's done, it will automatically save, and then you go back onto Google Classroom and all you need to do is click hand in, okay? If you click share, that means that Miss Collis and I get an email, and then we have to download it, then we have to reopen it, then we have to save it again and send it back to you again. It's just a lot easier if all you have to do is click hand in, and then we get sent that copy immediately that we can type on and mark for you. Any questions, pop them in Class Dojo messages or on the Google Classroom. But enjoy this lesson. There's some great artifacts there that can teach you a lot about ancient Greek life. I can't wait to read what you've read, and I can't wait to see you all again very soon when we can talk about these and get them out and hold them and pass them around. I will see you tomorrow, everybody. Have fun.